Hey customizers, I like to take the warts and all approach here at Talking Hands Customs, and any mistakes I can catch on camera I will show you, and I'll show you how to get out of them. With the fire bat here, yes, it's got color on it because I've been searching for the right color for the project to show you, and in my efforts the paint decided to be a little bit naughty. You can see that's called fisheye, I think, the fisheye thing. And the paint decided to be really naughty. And this is probably because when I was mixing, some of the company's paints are not compatible. So if there's, usually what happens if you try and spray this on a surface that's not clean or whatever, that you get those fish eyes, but this here's even pooled up. Right, now it's got this texture on it that I have to sand off. It happens. It's more prone to happening with spray paint, but it can happen with airbrushing as well. And because the companies I used, their paints aren't 100% compatible. If you recall back when I said, you know, try and use the same company's paints if you've got to mix paints or work on a project, that's absolutely true. But in this case, this highlights the disadvantage of living in a small town where I'm starting to run out of some key colors. And my color expert noticed that the cartoon accurate scheme for this is actually a gray with a purple undertone. And unfortunately, purple's not a color I use all that much. So I had to cross companies with my paint, and now I'm dealing with the fallout. I mean, overall, it worked, but just sometimes you'll get that to happen. There's another bit of it down there. So all I got to do to fix that is sand it off and reapply paint, and hopefully I've mixed enough because I'm running out of color. So sometimes this just happens, right? It's if everything was sunshine and kisses, you know, where's the challenge in that? So I gotta redo those parts. However, I do want to draw your attention to the fixed parts. So in the last episode we talked about shaping. So still a little rough, might get some fine tuning, but it certainly looks worse on camera. It looks fine with the naked eye, but everybody here is just watching on the camera. Anyway, there's the replaced wing bracket there, and there's the repaired fin. So that worked out rather nicely. Blended it in, primed it, saw I had to rework it a little bit, and with that, it's that process I told you about, right? So it's sanding, filling, priming, sanding, filling, priming, sanding, filling, priming. Or filling, sanding, priming, depending on what it is you have to do. But either way, those three things will have to occur more than once likely on repairs like that. And now I've got to sand and reprime and recolor. So there you have it. So I'm going to get that done, and we'll carry on with the rest of the episode. So like I said, if I know sometimes when I watch the like model building tutorials and stuff, and nobody ever seems to really make a mistake, they usually do them off camera and then fix them. But I wanted you to see that. Look at that mistake, which I now have to fix, which has now extended the project, which is okay, but I'm getting excited to have this one on the shelf, so we'll just fight through and see what happens. All right, so let me get that fixed up, and we'll carry on with the next steps. Okay, customizers, this is where we sit. The other aspect of this series is now going to be talking about overcoming adversity. We've discussed it a little bit in the past, but now I'm experiencing some real-time issues here, some of which I showed you in the shaky cam there. And now what I've done is I've sanded off all of the bad paint. You can see some of the effects there. And in checking my work for the fin here, as you can see, that's the fin that's been repaired with Milliput, which looks quite excellent, if I do say so myself. This fin is now quite nicely stuck in there. Given the previously unknown brittleness of this plastic, I'm hesitant to move it. So we'll see what happens as we go. It's pretty much fully seated in there. But whatever it is with the 25th anniversary fire bat, I would advise caution in manipulating the plastic any, because it is extremely brittle. I've had more breaks on this than a 1984 movie soundtrack. Wicka wicka wah. So Now what I've done is I've consulted my color expert, and in looking at the cartoon rendition of the fire bat, it is a gray with a purple undertone. And that's been the root of some of these problems in getting a lot of paint on here, is trying to find that color. So what I've done is I've mixed two colors, and I've used Model Master Acryl Light Gray. Any light gray will do. It's sometimes called USAF Light Gray, for United States Air Force Light Gray. And the other color is Napoleonic Violet. You can see the nature of what kind of purple it is. It's not a dark purple. It is kind of a grayed out purple, and I think that tints it just enough. And all I did was put a couple of drops, stir it, put a couple of drops, stir it. So again, adjusted visually using ratios, as I tend to do. So I believe I have that mixture now, and that's what's been the problem here, is looking at that gray on my phone, on the computer, under certain lighting, and it changes color, as we've spoken about, that your reference material needs to be taken into account when you're looking at your colors. So the frustrations being the paints not being compatible. So while I showed you Model Master Acryl, like I've said before, the company that makes that is shutting down the line from last I heard. So as long as you use two of relatively the same colors from the same company, or paints that you know are compatible, you're fine. I found out that this paint company is not compatible with a lot of others. That's not to say that this paint isn't outstanding. It is. It's high quality paint. It's just not friendly with other paints, and that'll happen. So now what we're going to do is, we've got this color. I'm going to show you real time me putting on the new color and seeing if this problem rears its ugly head again. So with such a small vehicle and such a simple concept of, hey, let's make it gray and put some Cobra stickers on it, it's revealed other issues to tackle, which is fantastic. So you get to see that. And I'm trying a new camera angle and setup here, which might make things a little more easier for me to spray and paint and stuff like that. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, and what I found here is I still have a gritty surface texture here even after cleaning it off, so there was probably some paint I forgot or didn't see to remove / forgot to remove. So I'm just going to sand that again and use the last time I mixed paint to get this thing done. And actually, I don't even need to. So there we go. And after all of that paint bubbling and all that stuff, sanded back, reprimed where I needed to. You saw some of the parts there I didn't reprime because they, in my opinion, they had texture on them already, so they accepted paint no problem with 1 or 2 passes. And now, by using the Model Master Acryl compatible paints mixing together, I've got what I want. Now, it's kind of funny because I'm not sure if the camera picks it up, but I can definitely see the purple undertone here. Almost borderline too heavy. Almost. So I think that means that we got it right. And that's something else you're going to find is, you know, we talked about it where if you think you should go a little bit more, then stop, etc., etc. And that's the balance I can't explain to you step by step. It's the best advice I've ever received is if you think you need to do a little bit more, then stop. And that's applicable to anything. But yeah, and I just want to draw your attention here too. Let's look at the repairs I made again. So it's a little different in shape, but certainly not enough to distract. And I think that fin turned out really nicely. That is the fin repaired with the milliput. And especially when you compare it to the other fin here, it works out just nicely. I didn't replicate that little bump you see there because that's supposed to hook in to that thing there, because this fits tight enough that it's not really a concern. And that's just it. And if you wanted to, you could certainly glue these parts in place. But I've got to say that working on this project, I had no idea that this thing was going to be this fragile and brittle. I did a Sky Sweeper jet in Sky Patrol colors, and I had 0 issues disassembling it and reassembling it multiple times. I looked at this thing funny, and it came apart. So, well, it is what it is. So if you ever decide to work with a fire bat, if you're not following along with this particular project, exercise caution. But there it is. So let's carry on with the overall project, and I think we're good to go. I only have a little bit of this paint left, in which case I'll have to order some online because I'm out and so is the store. So, well, there it is, and super happy with that. And we can actually do a little bit of a fun check here. By checking out our stickers. In my reference photo, the Cobra emblem is a little fluorescent. And we know that's not normally the case. It's a cartoon anyway. But when you see that Cobra emblem, I'm using this one here in the top left corner, which is going to go onto my fin. That's going to look fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So there we go. Let's see what we have to do next. We have to decide what we're going to do about the missing parts. What I've done here is I've scratch built an engine nozzle. All this is tube styrene with some very small styrene square rod. Cut the shape even to match the angle here. Get that back in focus. Even to match the angle here. And that will be a potential replacement thruster. It's a different shape than the original, but in the cartoon drawing it shows it as a solid diameter or constant diameter tube. So if I hold it up against the ship itself, roughly speaking, we're okay with that. In the cartoon drawing, there's actually no detail on it, it's just a tube. Now, that might have looked maybe a little simplistic for our purposes, so I decided to show you that you could make something that resembles one style of engine. And what they do is you'll see it on some G.I. Joe toys, where they'll just have a tube that looks exactly like this, and almost from that end it looks like a sprocket, sort of. And that's one of the classic engine designs. On the Firebat itself, it's actually a cone, and it has panel lines carved into it. Now, in order to get panel lines as thick on the original, you'd have to do some serious carving. You might be able to pull it off with a saw, but I wanted to show you what I call the additive way of scratch building something, and that's building something up by cutting into something and taking a material away from it. So that's the size of that. The other thing we have to do is, if you look at the photo reference, there is some variation, let's say, in what it uses for cannons. Now, according to all the stats you see for the Firebat, it says it has one 7.62 minigun, and yet the toy has two blasters on the bottom, two laser cannons, whatever you want to call them. And in the cartoon, you don't actually see them when it does a flyby. The inspiration for this scheme, you never see any sort of lasers, even though it does shoot in the cartoon. So we have to decide what we're going to do about that. We're missing guns on this. So we have two options. We can scratch build like we did for the Dreadnought boat. And that may not be everybody's cup of tea. It lends itself well doing the one styrene rod inside of another, the telescope method, if you will. Because I saw one drawing of this colored firebat with that exact look on it. The question is being a simple shape, will it take away from this design? And the answer is, I'm not sure yet. The other thing we can do is, much like with the engine thruster, we don't have to necessarily scratch build one. We can use things that we find around the house. I was going to call it kit bashing, but it's not the best term for it. Kit bashing is when you take parts from one thing and parts from another and stick them together, which is certainly part of it. But I think there's a better term that somebody else used called found objects. You're using found objects. Shout out to Chris if he's watching this. Thanks for the cool term. What does that mean? Well, you're looking around the house. You're looking for any sort of household items or something you found at your office or something like that that nobody's using. That's kind of the key. That can substitute for those shapes, those parts that you're missing because they have relatively the same shape. An example of that is hiding here somewhere, but I'll show you on the end of this for now. So take this super glue bottle, for example. Now this cap is actually quite an excellent shape to replace that thruster. It is additive in that it's not necessarily got the same cutouts in it. It does have the appearance of cutouts. So if we had an empty glue bottle, I could cut the appropriate shape that matches the back here and then cut off a flat end to it, and we would have our thruster right there. And that would be what's called using found objects. So I'm still debating whether or not that's what I'm going to do. And we also have that choice for the lasers in that I can make the simplistic, or simple anyway, design based exactly off the cartoon, or I could take something like this. And right now I know you're going, well, we're not just going to glue this onto the bottom as it is. But if you look at one of these up close, and I don't even know what these are from, maybe they're from modern G.I. Joe, I don't know. They're two different colors and quite frankly don't care. So I'm not using them for anything else. But if you look at this and start to break it down into simple shapes, much like the way we did for discussing the design on the Dreadnought cannons, you'll see that if we cut here, then this forward piece lends itself very well with the removal of some detail as a laser cannon. Same cut, other direction also works because this part here is flat, so it will actually marry up quite nicely with the mounting point here. There is a third option. You can leave cannons, well, there's actually four options. So the third option is you can leave the cannons off. Just don't even bother filling the holes unless you really want to. Put some sheet styrene over that. Or you could fill it with putty, whatever your choice. But just leave them off for now. Because you can always add to it later, right? It's always easier to add more than it is to take away with anything usually. So you could just leave it and pretend there's a fourth option. What is that fourth option? Well, you can, it's like 4.5 options, okay? So you could take something like a pen cap, a pointy pen cap. You could cut it in half and then make a fairing for the cannons. And basically it would look, let's see if I got one like it. Of course not. So if you took a pen cap basically and the wider end, have that facing forward and you have it cut in half and you just glue the half a pen cap on there, it would look almost like a real life cannon fairing like you would see on fighter aircraft. And you could do one on either side to replace the two cannons, or you could put them right over there or whatever. The 4.5 bit is that you could actually match all the statistics cards and file cards you ever see about this thing and put one on, just one, whether it's in the center, off to the sides, whatever you like. So we have some options. And I'll think about that while I'm finishing up the project. So we're not there yet. We'll call this a quick inject video for this custom. During the reassembly phase, everything went pear-shaped, and you can see it already. In trying to reassemble the wings broke again in a whole new place. So now I have this ugly scar here, and this front piece snapped off here. The fuselage didn't want to go all the way back together, so in pushing down, I re-broke the crossbar here, and the pressure, which I thought was steady and firm, actually cracked the fuselage here, and it actually broke the same chunk off on the other side. So now I've got to fix all that. It's going to take like 2 episodes worth of video just to show you how I work on that, but I want to show you this now to show you how much fun I'm having on this project. So what I'll say right now is I strongly caution you when working with a modern era fire bat. I've had small pins and stuff break off before, but this is crazy. So this is going to take some body English, and I might end up ruining the paint scheme, and I'm out of paint to do this scheme again. So it may take a while to finish this up. You won't see that waiting time because I'll edit it all together, but I definitely wanted you to see this because this qualifies as disaster striking. But I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. And if something like this happens to you, neither should you. This will be a matter of gluing and sanding and repainting and everything else. So we'll see how it goes. And all this sprung from a simple repaint. I just wanted to paint it one color and that was it. But so this is the universe's way of saying, hey, are you paying attention? So anyway, there it is. Let's cut back into the normal sequence. And here we are with the Firebat mostly repaired, and the project is still underway. I say mostly repaired. As you can see, I've done the fuselage here onto the side and on that side as well. The wings are on, but the repair on this wing in particular is still in progress. I'm showing you the unfinished product because my paint supply in that regard has disappeared, and my local store is completely out of it, and it's discontinued company. So while the paint went down very well, there was only so much left of it, and I used it up on this project. This Firebat has blown my mind for its level of fragility. The Sky Sweeper jet I had 0 problems with. This one, I looked at it funny and it broke. Even in repairing the tops here and finally seating the fuselage home, it actually punched through the bottom of the hull. So I'm going to call this one a dangerous subject to tackle. I do have another one to do, and I'm going to contemplate if I can do it while it's fully assembled, which will be a trick in and of itself. But regardless, back on this particular Firebat, I have ordered paint online, and I wanted to show you this now because, like we've talked about in the other series, is that you can break something can get screwed up along the way, or a project can fight you every inch of the way. And this one has. This one's absolutely fought me every inch of the way. In fact, the only thing that went off without a hitch was tinting the canopy. Everything else was damn near a nightmare. And for so simple a task as painting it a purplish gray, it's been mind-blowing, quite honestly. I was not expecting to have a modern toy react this way. The plastic itself is insane. But focusing on the positives, we did mix the right color. I'm very happy with it. It's interesting because on camera it looks gray. I'll see if it shows up, reads purple when I put the purple cap near it. A little bit. You can almost pick up the purple tinge when it's next to a similar color. Certainly when I look at it under different lights in my house, that you can pick up on the purple of it, which matches the photo. Whether it's not like that in the cartoon, well, that's the thing with doing cartoon accurate. It can be deceptively complex, and especially in this case, given the gray that is used to color the vehicle. The other thing being is an up-close cross-examination. This is the original fin here. And there's the repaired fin that we used Milliput on. You can see how nasty this wing has gotten, so just ignore that for now. But look at that comparison. So I hope that's convinced you that Milliput is an absolutely viable and valuable tool for your customs. I completely repaired a geometric shape with a putty, with a two-part putty, and you can do the same thing. So we did that. We attached the wings, and when I was putting it together last night, it actually completely shattered in a new place. So the wings have been doubly repaired, and what I did is I made the call to have the wings fixed in place so they will no longer fold unless I really force it, but I'm not in the mood to. So they're going to be fixed in the open position, which is fine by me. We talked about loss of functionality. This is a practical example of that, due to the fact that in working on this project, the plastic is, for lack of a better term, subpar. I don't know what happened with this particular vehicle. I've never experienced this before, and I've done easily over 20 customs. I've never seen that before, not even on vintage vehicles. I've heard some vehicles, you know, the plastic is a bit frail and stuff, so I've been mindful there. This one, even after being mindful, you look at it the wrong way and it shatters. So it should have been some foreshadowing when I first got it and dropped it that 4 inches or whatever it was, and the tail shattered here. But that's been repaired. So the other thing that we did is we removed some detail in this project. So the rivets that are on here, they are on the original Firebat as well. But in order to facilitate the markings to make it cartoon accurate, we had to remove that detail. So that took some cutting and sanding and puttying, and now the tail is smooth on both sides. Other than that, we didn't really have to change anything else physically. And we did deviate, if you could call it that, in going cartoon accurate, in that we partially painted a part. So this landing gear strut is one piece, but we only painted the tire because that's the way it is in the drawing. And with cartoon accurate stuff, that's what you got to do. Is if you have a traditional style, let's say it's like mine where it's Hasbro aesthetic, or you do the realistic thing, if you want to make something cartoon accurate, the great thing about this art form is you can pick and choose what you want to incorporate into your custom. It is a custom after all, right? That's the whole nature of the beast. Do you want to make it 100% screen accurate? Do you want to make it close enough? Do you want to take certain aspects of it? So in this case, it's a multifaceted thing because, like I said, in the cartoon, you don't see the guns on it. So right now I've left them empty, but I'm probably going to make them out of those bazookas I showed you. I'm pushing that decision off to the side because there's no rush for it. I've got the canopy tinted. I've got the color on. It's been physically repaired. I've replaced this missing piece here with a scratch-built engine thruster. So now all that's left is putting on stickers, which brings me to the next point of discussion. Is what I love about G.I. Joe toys is they come with all these little stickers. They're well thought out. They have rescue arrows, hazard warnings, hydraulic, whatever labels. And it's so much fun to put them on. And it really provides those extra little details for your mind to get drawn to. But in the cartoon world, they don't have those really, unless there was maybe a close-up of a Joe standing next to a vehicle. I couldn't even tell you. But in this case, the cartoon aesthetic works for this subject, and a few others as well, in that the difference of the paint scheme is enough to capture your attention, and then for us, the bright red Cobra emblems that will go on this will make it even more so. So I'm going to do that with you right now to share with you some of the fun bits of this project from hell. But anyway, so much fun. Actually, for a while there, I was almost convinced I was building a model. I was doing so much gluing and sanding and puttying. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is one final contrast check, just to make sure. I can put this back on the sticker sheet, but I don't know if there's a need to or not. And now I'm just landmarking. We always talked about landmarking. In this case, it's a little complex. So I'm kind of going for the middle of the fin. And I think we got it right there. It's always easy to place the first one because you're not comparing it to anything else. But there we go. Nice big Cobra emblem. When I was first thinking about doing this project, I remembered it being a slightly darker gray and there being a huge Cobra emblem right here. Maybe it is in an episode like that, but when I did my Google searching or whatever, this was what came up, and I like this as well. It's very reminiscent of the snake armor I find, with its color balance, and the Cobra missile and the Cobra claw and the trouble bubble, etc. So I really like this. It's the earliest appearance of the Firebat. Later on in the series, it goes to its classic red color. But There it is right there. So what I did is I think, yeah. So if you want to see how I lined this up close, we're looking at the scales, if you will, inside the Cobra symbol. And I lined up the top of the second one. So I took the second one from the bottom, the top of that bar, and I lined it up with the split in the rudder here. So, and then I just put it a hair off from there and there. So that's roughly going to be it. It's kind of centered in that space once you get it close to that. So now we're going to try and replicate it on this side. I'm trying not to speak too loudly because I don't want the Firebat to fall apart. Now I guess the question is when you have a project like this that's fought you all the way, what happens with it? Well, I mean, it goes on the shelf. Quite simply, it goes on the shelf. The memory attached to it, well, unfortunately, it's going to be what it is. And there's nothing you can do about that. Because sometimes projects will just fight you. Was it worth it? In my mind, absolutely. Absolutely worth it. A little close, a little close. Always going quiet during the sticker application. I think we got it right there. I think we got it right there. Oh yeah. Boop. Boop. Yeah. Well, if there's a difference, I'll buff it out. And of course, for the third one. I said in the cartoon series, it was the darker gray version, but it did have this nice Cobra sigil right on the bottom. And that's going to go right here. And if you remember from the beginning, I sanded off those numbers just so I could put this sticker right here. And there it is. Simple. Simple but effective. And there it is. We have a cartoon accurate Firebat. Well, to say that this project's been an adventure is a bit of an understatement. Sometime down the road, I'll show you the repairs I did on this and showed you that you can certainly bring this back up to snuff. But in the meantime, you get it. This project fought me the entire way. I'm trying to stay, and it's difficult to stay positive about it sometimes, right? Like it's done and I like it. But the fact that it fought me so hard, something so simple, was, it's one of those things, like you can do Tiger Force. I mean, remember what we did with Python Patrol and everything? All I did was paint this gray and the whole thing fell apart. So it's, yes, it's unrelated, but you can't help but think of it when you're doing this sort of thing. And I'm just going to see here if I can fix the placement of this while I've got you interested and keen. Go a little bit. Oh yeah, there we go. Come here. A little bit, nice and slow, and we're good. Sticker's back off. It was a little wonky, a little high. There we go. That's better. Ooh. Get in there. There we go. Okay. Now we're back. We're in business. It's tight. I love it. So there it is. Like I said, this project fought me the entire way. Did I quit? No. Did I want to? Absolutely. It's a natural human thing. I fixed one break, and while I was reassembling it, another one occurred. And that was being super gentle. So at the end of the day, it's a striking piece. A lot of Cobra stuff isn't this color. I've already talked about most of the pieces that are. I like it. It's very evocative of the cartoon, which is what started this whole thing in the first place, for me anyway. And, well, there it is. So what I'll say to my subscribers is thank you very much. And if you're joining us for the first time in this series, welcome to Talking Hands Customs. The key takeaways from this are scratch building, never give up, fight all the way through the project, and cartoon accuracy is absolutely a thing. Absolutely a thing. Lots of options, lots of fun to be had. So from now on, we're going to be doing a couple of more projects that are cartoon accurate, and we will be calling it Sunbow. In fact, I'm going to show you the Sunbow army already. And there we go. We have a Sunbow Hiss and a Sunbow Firebat. ready to take on G.I. Joe. The Sunbow Hiss itself, I'm going to probably show it to you in the tour, but all I did was paint the tracks gray like they are in the cartoon, and a slightly stylized and larger Cobra symbol here. It's got the white background on it. Other than that, I used all the regular stock stickers, and this is from the retro line. So there you go. We've got a couple of cartoon accurate vehicles on the way. Probably going to do a G.I. Joe one next. We have some other fun ideas coming down the pipe too, so there's always something to be seen later. So thanks for joining me on this one, and I hope all your customs are going well and better than this one did. And remember, if you had breaks, stop, take your time, and fix them, or else you're never going to get finished, and you won't enjoy the process. So, as always, be safe and have fun.